The sky was dark. Heavy clouds hung low and cold rain fell like sharp needles onto the broken ground. On a lonely hill, in the middle of a destroyed alien village, a woman knelt beside a small grave. Her hands were shaking. Her face was soaked. Not just from the rain, but from tears. She was not human. Her skin was pale blue. Her large, golden eyes were full of pain. She was thin, weak, and looked like she hadn't eaten in days. Her clothes were torn. Her long fingers touched the stones carefully placed on the tiny grave. Her lips moved as she whispered something again and again. "Forgive me, my baby. Forgive me." The grave had no name, no flowers. Just a tiny wrapped cloth buried under rocks. She had buried it herself. She had believed her baby was dead. There was no pulse, no sound, no breath. She had searched for hours after the bombing, screaming, digging, crawling. But when she found the little body, it was cold and still. She had no tools, no help, no hope. So she dug with her hands and placed the body inside the earth, crying like an animal. Then she stayed, every day, every night, talking to the grave as if her child could hear, but far away, light years away. Her child was not dead. On a small human ship flying through space, a man sat beside a weak, coughing alien child. The boy was tiny, barely breathing. His skin was dry and cracked. His arms were covered in ash and burns. The man held him carefully, wrapping him in a warm emergency blanket. "Easy now. You're safe," the man whispered. The child didn't understand the words, but he could feel the warmth. He looked up at the strange creature, this human, with wide, scared eyes. The human gave him water. The boy drank slowly. The man, his name was Connor, had found the child days ago on a rescue mission to a burned planet. The area had been declared dead zone. Nothing was supposed to be alive, but Connor had gone in anyway, searching for anything left behind. That's when he heard the tiny cough. Weak. Barely there. He ran toward the sound and found the boy under rubble. Alive. Alone. Buried in dust and rock. Surrounded by ruins. Connor didn't think. He scooped the child up and ran back to his ship. He didn't even wait for orders. He just knew. He had to save him. Back on the destroyed world, the alien mother lifted her head. Her ears twitched. She thought she had heard something, a soft sound, like a voice on the wind. She looked around, heart racing. Nothing. Just the wind, the rain, the broken trees. Still something inside her stirred. Her name was Eliane. She was once strong, once proud. A worker, a leader in her community. But after the war came on, after the fire, the bombings, the death, she had lost everything, her home, her people. Her baby. At least she thought she had. She had no idea that a grave now sat empty. She had no idea her son had lived, and she had no idea that a human, an enemy species in her people's eyes, had risked everything to carry that child off-world. Inside the ship, Connor watched the boy sleep. The child still hadn't spoken. He didn't know the boy's name or where he was from. But he saw the same thing in him that he once saw in himself: fear, pain, and the quiet hope of survival. Connor had sent out messages on every channel, trying to reach any alien frequencies. No reply. He wasn't sure if anyone was listening. But he kept trying. He had made a promise. "I don't know who you are, little guy," he said softly, "but I'll get you home somehow." As the ship moved through the stars, the rain on the alien planet kept falling. Eliane stayed by the grave, not knowing the truth. She wiped her tears with a shaky hand. "I miss you," she whispered. "I wish I could hold you one more time." Suddenly, the wind shifted, and in the far distance a faint sound echoed in the clouds, one she hadn't heard in days. A child's cry. Her eyes shot open. Her heart stopped. "No," she said. "That can't be." She stood slowly, listening. The grave stayed still, but the voice in her heart began to scream. The smoke was still rising when Connor stepped into the ruins. His boots crunched over broken metal, glass, and bones. The alien colony had been bombed 3 days ago. Most of it was still burning. He shouldn't have been here. His captain had ordered the rescue team to avoid this zone. Said it was hopeless. Said there were no life signs. But Connor had heard something. A signal. Weak. Like a whisper lost in the wind. He followed it. Through the blackened alleys and broken homes. Through collapsed buildings and shattered memories. And then, he heard it again. Ch. A sound. A cough. So soft it could have been nothing. But Connor's ears sharpened. He moved fast, pushing aside rubble, lifting heavy beams. Something under the wreckage moved. He knelt down, and then he saw it, a small blue hand shaking slightly under the ash. Connor's heart jumped. Hey! Hey! I've got you! He shouted, digging faster. The child was buried under dust and stone, wrapped in a burnt cloth. His eyes were closed, his lips dry, but he was breathing. Barely. Connor didn't wait. He pulled the child into his arms, holding him close, shielding him from the burning wind. You're alive. Oh my God, you're alive. Back on the ship, the medkit beeped loudly as Connor placed the child on the small bed. He injected a hydration serum into the boy's arm and started the oxygen mask. The boy flinched but didn't cry. He was too weak. Connor sat beside him, brushing ash from the tiny face. Where are your people, little guy? He asked gently. Where's your mom? The boy didn't speak. He just stared at the ceiling with big golden eyes. Silent. Connor sighed. He didn't know the alien language, and the boy was too scared or too sick to try. But still, those eyes, they were full of something familiar. Not hate, not fear. Hope. Meanwhile, on the ruined planet, Eliane stared at the grave again. She had heard something the night before. A cry, a sound that made her soul shake. But it couldn't be. Her baby was dead. Right? She stood in the rain, staring at the stones she had placed herself. Her fingers moved over them slowly as if searching for a mistake. What if I was wrong? She whispered to herself. No, that was impossible. She had held the cold body. She had felt no heartbeat, no breath, nothing. But still, her mother's heart wouldn't stay quiet. Something deep inside told her, he's not gone. Back in orbit, Connor paced around the small ship. He had tried every communication channel, sending messages in multiple alien languages, even using universal signals. But no one replied. The boy watched him quietly, sitting up now, wrapped in a blanket. Connor sat beside him again and pulled out a protein bar. You hungry? The child stared, then slowly reached out. His tiny fingers trembled. He took the bar and ate slowly. Connor smiled. That's it? You're a fighter, huh? The boy didn't smile back. But for the first time, he pointed at Connor's wrist computer. What? You want to show me something? The boy leaned over and drew something with his finger on the screen. A circle with 3 dots inside. Connor frowned. What's this? A place? The boy blinked, then nodded. Connor stared at the symbol. It didn't look like anything in the human database. But maybe, just maybe, it was home. The stars outside were quiet, but danger was never far. Connor didn't know that his signal had been picked up by more than just satellites. A dark ship, miles away, changed course. Pirates, raiders, creatures who didn't care about saving lives, only taking them. They had heard the signal too, and they knew something rare had survived. But Connor only cared about one thing now, getting this child back to his family. Even if he had to search every planet, every moon, every ruin, he would. He made a promise to no one, and yet to the universe itself. I'll find your mom, kid, I swear. The child leaned against him, eyes slowly closing, and far below, on a lonely hill, Eliane stood up from the grave, with a new look in her eyes. Not sadness, Not pain, but something stronger. A feeling she hadn't felt since the war began. Hope. The sun had not risen for days. Smoke still lingered in the sky. The trees had no leaves. The wind was sharp and dry, like the breath of something dying. Eliane sat near the tiny grave, her eyes open but hollow. She did not cry anymore. She had run out of tears. She had stopped eating. She barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw her baby's face, cold, still, covered in ash. But then something strange began to happen. For the last 2 nights, she had heard him. Soft cries, echoes in her ears. She thought it was the wind, but it sounded too real, and last night it happened again. She woke up to the sound of a cough, a small, weak one. It came from beyond the trees, from the same direction every time. Eliane sat up quickly, heart pounding. She stared toward the distant woods, her sharp alien ears twitching. Could it be real? No. It was just grief. That's what the others had said. Your mind plays tricks, an elder had told her. Grief can sound like a ghost. But Eliane's heart didn't believe that. Something inside her screamed louder than any logic. She stood up. She turned to the grave. Her fingers trembled as she touched the stones. "If I buried you here," she whispered, "why do I still feel you out there?" And then she screamed. It was not a scream of sorrow. It was a scream of fury. A scream that shook the birds from the trees. Because now, for the first time, she doubted the grave. In orbit, aboard the small human vessel, the child stirred. His small chest rose and fell slowly. He was healing. Slowly, but surely. Connor sat beside him, eyes tired, face unshaven. He hadn't slept much either. The boy had not spoken, but he was showing signs. He responded to light. He pointed at maps. He reached for water without fear now. Connor felt like he was finally winning the boy's trust. "All right, let's try. Again," Connor said. He pulled up the symbol, the circle with 3 dots, the one the boy had drawn. Is it your home?" The child blinked, then tapped it again. Then he used his finger to draw another line, connecting the dots in a triangle. Connor leaned closer. "Coordinates? You're giving me a direction?" The boy looked at him and gave a tiny nod. It was the first movement that looked like understanding. Connor smiled, heart racing. "Okay, let's go find it." He typed the rough coordinates into the ship's nav system. The AI protested. It said the route was dangerous, full of asteroid fields and pirate signals. Connor didn't care. Plot the course. He had no idea that he was flying straight toward danger. Eliane walked past the last hut in the village. No one followed her. No one called her back. They had already given up on her and her child. But she hadn't. She carried nothing. No weapon, no food. Just a hope burning in her chest, hotter than fire. Her long feet crushed the ash-covered ground as she walked toward the trees, following the sound that haunted her nights. It was not a sound today. It was a pull. Something, invisible, dragging her forward. She crossed the broken hills. She stepped into places where her people had died. But she kept moving, and then she stopped. A strange light flickered in the clouds above, faint, blinking red and white. She had never seen lights like those. Something was falling from the sky. Something was landing. Connor's ship shook violently as it entered the planet's atmosphere. The autopilot struggled against the pull of the storm. Red lightning flashed across the sky. "Hang on, kid," Connor shouted. The boy clung to his seat as the ship jerked downward. They crashed into a soft field beyond the village, a wild, unmarked area covered in purple moss and twisted roots. Smoke rose from the engines, but the ship was mostly intact. Connor grabbed his bag and picked up the boy. "Let's go find your home." The child pointed again, toward the trees, toward the same hills Eliane was walking through. She heard the crash. Her eyes shot up to the smoke in the sky. Her feet moved before her brain did. She ran. Connor stepped out of the wrecked ship, holding the boy tight. He looked around. No one in sight. But something in the air felt strange, like he was being watched. He looked down at the child. Is this it? Is she close? The boy didn't speak, but his eyes filled with tears. He looked toward the trees and smiled, and from behind those trees Eliane appeared, her legs weak, her arms trembling, her breath caught in her throat. She saw the human, and then she saw the child, and she screamed again, but this time it was joy. Her baby was alive. Eliane stood frozen in the clearing. Rain dripped from her long silver hair. Her golden eyes were wide, locked onto the small boy in the human's arms. For a second she couldn't breathe. Her knees almost gave out. Was it real? Was it truly him? Her child? Her baby? Alive? The human turned slowly, careful not to make any sudden moves. He saw the alien woman standing there, her face full of shock, her hands shaking. Her clothes were soaked, her feet bare, but she didn't seem to notice the cold. The boy in Connor's arms looked up, and for the first time he reached out toward her. Ma, the boy whispered, voice like a feather. It was just one word, but it broke everything inside Eliane. She ran forward, fell to her knees, her arms wrapped around the boy who was crying now, pressing his tiny face into her neck. My child, she sobbed. My little one. You're alive. She kissed him again and again. She didn't care that a human stood, just feet away. She didn't care about the war, the pain, the history. Her baby was in her arms, and he was real. Connor took a step back, giving them space. His throat felt tight. He had no family of his own, not anymore. But seeing this moment, it filled something in his chest that had been empty for years. I think you two needed each other more than anything, he said quietly. Eliane finally looked up at him. Her voice shook. You saved him? Connor gave a small nod. I just found him. You're the reason he survived this long. He never gave up. He remembered you. Her eyes filled again, but this time with something softer. You are human, she said slowly, testing the words. Yeah. Sorry about that, Connor said with a weak smile. No. Eliane stood holding her son. Thank you, but peace never lasts. High above the planet, the dark raider ship that had picked up Connor's signal days ago was now in orbit. Its scanners had locked onto the crash site. They didn't care about reunions. They cared about the child. A rare, alien species, valuable, sellable, and they were coming fast. Back on the ground, Connor was fixing a small signal booster. His ship was damaged in the landing and he needed help, any help, to get off the planet before nightfall. He looked at Eliane. She was sitting beside the boy who was eating a warm meal Connor had given her from his emergency rations. Do you have anyone left? Connor asked. Eliane shook her head. No, my people, most are gone. Others left after the attack. No one believed my son survived. Connor frowned. I tried sending signals out with his location, but I think the message got scrambled. Show me, she said. He did. The coordinates, the code he used, the pulse pattern. Eliane looked closely. Her eyes widened. This signal. It's wrong. You used the word for orphan in my language, but the code is old. Pirates use it now to mark targets. Connor's stomach dropped. You're saying, I sent out a message that told raiders he was alone. She nodded slowly. That means they're coming, he whispered. No, Eliane said, standing. Her hands tightened into fists. They're already here. An alarm beeped on Connor's wrist device. Proximity alert. One ship. Big. Moving fast. He grabbed his small blaster and tossed a blade to Eliane. We need to move. But before they could hide, a loud engine roared from above. A small raider shuttle was landing nearby, searching. Connor pulled the boy into his arms again. Run, I'll distract them. But Elyan grabbed his arm. No, we fight. Together. They ran toward the rocks, hiding in the shadows. The boy held on to his mother's side, silent but alert. Connor aimed his scanner toward the ship. 1. Signal. No, wait. 3. Armed. Are they human? Elyan asked. Connor shook his head. Worse. He looked at her. You still sure you want to fight? She nodded without fear. They took my people. They won't take him. The raiders moved slowly through the trees, scanning the area, but they weren't ready for what happened next. Elyan leapt from the rocks, blade spinning with alien grace. She slashed one raider down before he could scream. Connor shot the second, in the leg, then finished him with a second shot. The third turned to run, but the boy, standing tall now, screamed a sound that echoed through the trees, a piercing call of warning, a signal of their kind, more than a scream, a call for help. The raider froze and was taken down. Breathing hard, Elyan dropped the blade. Connor wiped blood from his sleeve. You fight better than anyone I've seen. Elyan picked up her child and whispered, No one takes him again. Connor looked to the sky. The bigger ship was still above them. More would come. They needed a way out. But in that moment, in the fading rain, hope was no longer hidden. It burned bright in the eyes of a mother, her son, and the human who brought them back together. Smoke rose from the fallen trees. The bodies of the raiders lay still, cooling under the gray sky. Connor cleaned his blaster with quick, shaky hands. His eyes never stopped scanning the horizon. This wasn't over, not even close. Above the clouds, the real danger waited. The main ship, the raider mothership, was massive, armed, hungry. It had tracked Connor's signal for days. It was now above them, silent and watching. The 3 scouts they killed were just the beginning. Elyan crouched beside her child, pressing her forehead to his. You were so brave, she whispered. The boy looked up at her, then at Connor. He saved me, he said softly. Elyan's eyes met the human's. Why? She asked. Connor blinked. Why what? Why would a human risk so much for my child? Connor took a long breath. Because no one came for mine. Silence. Cold and deep. She didn't ask more. She didn't need to. The signal tower Connor had fixed earlier flickered to life, then beeped. Someone's pinging us, he said, running over. Encrypted. He tapped the console. A rough voice came through. Drop the alien. Surrender. And we might let you live. Connor stared. How did they get our channel? Elyan stepped forward. That's the voice of Jurak, pirate leader. My people feared him. He trades children like goods. Connor's hands clenched. He's not getting this one. He picked up the child again, grabbed his pack, and started walking. Elyan followed. Where are we going? Somewhere they can't see us. They ran through the wild forests where twisted alien trees reached high like claws. The air was damp and heavy. Strange glowing insects lit the path in flashes. We can't outrun a ship, Elyan warned. I'm not trying to outrun it, Connor said. I'm trying to blind it. He stopped at a rocky cliffside and started brushing away moss. A small metal door appeared underneath. A bunker? She asked. My emergency hideout, he said. Old tech, invisible to scanners, just in case. They climbed in, sealing the door. Darkness. Then lights blinked on. The boy curled up in a corner, eyes half closed. He was tired, hungry again, but alive. Outside, the raider mothership finally released its ground troops. Metal pods dropped fast from the clouds, shaking the ground as they landed. Dozens of armed raiders stepped out, tall, armored, and cruel-looking. They spread across the forest like wolves. Jurak, the pirate leader, stepped off his ship last. His face was half machine. One glowing eye scanned the land. Find the child, he growled, and kill the human. Inside the bunker, Connor checked his weapon. Only 2 charges left. We can't stay long, he muttered. Elyan looked at him. They'll find us. These men. They have nose hounds, machines that smell tech. Even this place. Connor nodded. Then we'll have to make them think we're somewhere else. He opened a secret panel and pulled out a small sphere. Decoy beacon. Emits a false heat signal. I'll plant it far from here. I'll go, Elyan said. No, Connor said. I know the tech. I know the land, she replied. We don't have time to argue. They stared at each other, then he handed her the beacon. Don't take more than 10 minutes. She nodded and disappeared into the trees. Connor sat near the boy. You okay? The child nodded weakly. They want me because I'm different? Connor sighed. They want you because you're special, and they're cowards. Will they hurt my mom? Connor shook his head. Not while I'm breathing. The boy smiled slightly. You smell like metal, Connor chuckled. That's because I haven't showered in 2 days. In the forest, Elyan ran like a shadow. She reached the far cliff, attached the beacon to a rock and activated it. A red glow flashed, and the false signal pulsed into the sky. The raiders caught it instantly. There, Jurak shouted. They're hiding on the ridge. He sent 20 men. Elyan smiled to herself. They fell for it. But just as she turned to return, she heard a sharp metallic sound. She froze. Jurak himself was standing behind her. I knew you'd run, he said. She raised her blade. I'll die before I let you near him. He laughed. You will. Back at the bunker, Connor felt the ground shake. His gut twisted. Something's wrong, he said. She should have been back. He stood up, grabbed his blaster, and looked down at the boy. You stay here, lock the door after me. The boy's lip trembled. Don't leave. Connor knelt down. Your mom risked everything for you. I'm not going to let her die for it. He touched the child's forehead. Be brave again. One more time. Then he ran into the storm. Elyan's feet slid against the wet ground as she backed away from Jurak, the pirate with half a metal face. His red eye glowed, tracking her every move. You stole from me, he growled, stepping closer. I stole nothing, Elyan said. Her blade shook in her hand, but her voice stayed steady. He was never yours. Jurak smirked. He is rare. His DNA fetches a fortune. And now, you've made it personal. With a shout, he lunged. Elyan ducked under his swing, her blade cutting across his chest. Sparks flew, but he barely flinched. His metal armor stopped most of the damage. Still, she didn't stop. She moved like lightning. Each slash aimed to kill. But she was tired, hungry, weakened from days of grief and searching. Jurak caught her wrist mid-swing. His grip crushed her bones. She screamed in pain. He pulled her close. Your fight ends here. Suddenly, blam. A bolt of red energy struck Jurak's back. He stumbled forward, growling. Connor stood at the edge of the trees, blaster raised, smoke curling from the barrel. Let her go, he said, stepping forward. Jurak turned slowly, eyes wild. You again, he spat. Connor fired again. Jurak dodged, leaping behind. A tree. Elyan, move, Connor shouted. She rolled away, clutching her wrist. Connor slid beside her, firing at the pirate again and again. He won't stop, she gasped. You can't kill him with that. Connor opened his pack and pulled out a small black sphere. What is that? She asked. Hope, he muttered, or a really big boom. Meanwhile, deep underground in the bunker, the little alien boy sat alone. He was afraid. He missed his mother. Missed the strange but kind human who carried him away from fire. But most of all, he hated feeling helpless. He stood up and walked to the control panel Connor showed him. His small fingers hesitated. Then, typed, not perfect words, not full sentences, just a signal. Help. Mother in danger. He hit send far away. A tiny receiver on an old human patrol drone picked up the message. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Back in the forest, Connor threw the black sphere at Jurak's feet and dragged Elyan behind a tree. "Cover your ears," he said. The sphere exploded, not with fire but with light. A sonic pulse blasted outward. Jurak screamed, falling to one knee. His cybernetics sparked wildly. His metal eye dimmed. Connor stood up and fired 2 more shots right into the core on Jurak's chest. The pirate dropped. Silent. Elyan struggled to her feet. Her hand was swollen, but she grabbed Connor's shoulder to steady herself. "Is he dead?" she asked. Connor shook his head. "Stunned. Maybe a few hours. We should run." "No," Connor said. "We don't run anymore. We finish this." He looked up at the sky and smiled. A roar broke through the clouds. A human patrol ship, small, fast, and armed, descended at high speed. "They got the boy's message," Connor said. "That kid's smarter than he looks." The ship landed, hard. 2 soldiers ran out. "You the one who sent the SOS?" one shouted. Connor pointed at Elyan. "She's the reason we're alive. Her and the kid." Jurak groaned behind them. The second soldier cuffed him with high-voltage chains. "Looks like we caught a wanted criminal, too." Minutes later, they all boarded the patrol ship. Elyan held her son tightly as the medics wrapped her wrist. Connor leaned against the wall, eyes finally closing for a second. "You saved us," Elyan whispered. Connor looked at her. "No. You saved him. I just helped." She reached out and gently placed her hand over his. "In our culture," she said softly, "when someone brings back a child thought lost, they become part of the family." Connor blinked. He didn't speak. But for the first time in years, he felt like he belonged. High above the forest, the human patrol ship soared through the stars, carrying a mother, her son, and the human who gave them back to each other. The ship touched down once more, this time in peace. The air was quiet. The clouds had cleared, and golden sunlight now poured over the black hills. The same land that once felt like death now seemed soft, warm, alive. Connor stood at the ramp of the patrol vessel, watching as Elyan stepped down with her child in her arms. Her wrist was bandaged, her clothes still torn, but her steps were stronger. Her face was calmer. She was whole again. Her son, Tirak, clung to her tightly, his eyes wide with wonder. He was seeing his world not through smoke and fear now, but through the arms of his mother. Connor followed behind them slowly, unsure what to feel. For the first time in years, he had no mission, no orders, no war, just a quiet heartbeat in his chest and a boy's voice calling out to his mother. They walked together toward the lonely hill, the place where it had all begun, the tiny grave. Elyan stood before it silently. She looked down at the stones she had placed herself, each one with her trembling hands. The grave had been made in panic, in grief, in pain. Now she knelt down and wept again, but not from sorrow, from understanding. "I buried a part of me here," she whispered, "but not you, my son. Never you." She removed the stones gently, one by one, and dug into the earth. There was only cloth and a broken doll she had wrapped up in fear. No bones, no body, just a mother's mistake, made in a moment of loss. Behind her, Connor said softly, "You did what anyone would have done?" Elyan nodded. "But still, I needed to see it with my own eyes." She held her son close and for the first time looked at Connor, not with worry or question, but with something deeper, invitation. "Come," she said. "This place is no longer his grave. It will be something new." Together they cleared the space. They planted seeds Connor had brought from Earth. Small green bulbs that promised flowers, color, life, a future. Elyan added stones in a new pattern. Not a grave, but a circle of protection. A sacred mark from her people. Tirak placed a small toy in the center, his first gift to the world. "From now on," Elyan said, "this place will remind us. We survived." Later, the patrol ship prepared to leave. The captain asked Connor, You ready to come back with us? Connor looked to Elyan and Tirak, then looked to the sky. I think I found something better than orders. You sure? The captain asked. No job, no rank, just dirt and peace down here, Connor grinned. Sounds like heaven. Elyan watched from a distance. When he walked back toward her, she smiled softly. You don't have to stay. I want to, he replied. My people may not accept you at first. I've faced worse. She took his hand in hers. Her touch was light, careful. But it stayed. You brought my son back from death, she said. To us, that's not something we forget. Tirak ran to them and hugged both tightly, one arm around each. His voice was small, but sure. We're a family now. Connor looked down, eyes stinging. Yeah, we are. As the stars rose, again above the hills, and wind danced through the green shoots near the once empty grave, the three of them sat together, mother, child, and the human who refused to give up. Not just survivors. A new beginning.